Okay, so I've officially fixed everything wrong with my hair, nails, and outfit, so hopefully we have no more technical difficulties. First, I need to go close my door because someone is homesick. Ugh, it still looks wrong. Whatever. It's just gonna keep poking out, but oh well. Okay. Anyway. But let's get started on the next chapter. Chapter 4. The door to Scarlet's dorm room slid open and a small, distinguished-looking man stepped into the hall. He wore a long silver topcoat with a white forest green collar and a half-moon-shaped... Oh my god! A white forest green collar and half-moon-shaped buttons as big as his ears. His own ears were covered by a burnt orange fedora tilted so far forward it concealed his face. The only feature not hidden, in fact, was the very tip of his emerald beard. Pausing, he stroked the bright green whiskers as his head swiveled right and left. Satisfied that the hall was empty, he raised a star-studded, shiny black combat boot and boarded the cosmic transporter as it rolled past him. Combat boot! Okay, anyway. Sorry. But that's actually the reason why I put my combat boots on, because, usually these are, really annoying. But, combat boot? I promise you I'm not trying to flash y'all again. Scarlet hoped her disguise, courtesy of her roommate's closet, was convincing. The first test was the bot guard at the front door. She pushed past it, keeping her head down and her vest collar up. "Starred greetings, Scarlet," the bot guard said cheerfully. Scarlet sighed. "Star greetings," she mumbled without turning. The bot guards were a useless gauge, she guessed. They could read an aura a floozle away. Hopefully, the starling adults where she was going would be easier to trick. Once outside, Scarlet headed for the enormous star-shaped building between the hedge maze and the Celestial Cafe. Although it wasn't geographically at the center of the campus, it was the hub in every other way. Halo Hall, as it was called, housed all the Starling Academy classrooms, as well as the Astral Auditorium, where assemblies and performances were held. In the hall, too, were various offices, including that of Lady Stella, the headmistress. Its most spectacular feature was the gleaming lone white tower attached to the Wish House. It was at the very top sat the Wish World surveillance deck, the platform where starlings could absorb Wish World and its wishlings through telescopes, and where they waited to catch a shooting star when their day for a wish mission came at last. Normally, a starling walked to the white star marble stairs and entered through the front doors. Since this star day was far from normal, however, Scarlet hurried around the bot guard at the front and made her way into Halo Hall through the back. After all, she wasn't going to some old class in Stellation 4 or 5. She was on a mission to right what was wrong. If only she knew exactly where she needed to go. As far as the offices went, Scarlet was familiar with only two. That of the perky guidance counselor, Lady Solora, who had made it her mission to light Scarlet up, and Lady Stella's. Both were offices Scarlet hoped to stay well clear of, since she didn't want to see either administrator just then. I'm sorry, but that sounds exactly like my counselor who, kept trying to make it her business to help me out. It never worked. It never helped. I avoided her office just as much as Scarlet wants to avoid her counselor's office. Fortunately, they were clustered with other faculty offices in Stellation 1, and she was fairly certain that the office she was looking for was in Stellation 2, or maybe 3. She decided to try the second wing first, since it was closest. Like every hall, its walls and floor were made up of gleaming rainbow-hued star marble. In that wing, they gave off a pink-tinted glow. Up near the ceiling ran a series of windows, letting light from outside shine in. Scarlet hurried down the hall, passing door after door. As she did, she lifted her hat brim ever so slightly to read the hollow signs outside of each. Supply room read one star-shaped plaque. Stars app repair and maintenance, announced the next, followed by technology, Swift transportation services, and Wish energy management. Then Scarlet read the hollow sign by the door at the end. Bot security. Freaking fireballs, she thought. Security, time to turn around. Heart thumping, she scurried back down the hall and rounded the corner into the safety, she hoped, of Stellation 3. Please let me find what I'm looking for here, she wished. That hall looked basically the same, except the glow given off by the marble walls was a bit aquamarine. Finally, something that doesn't say turquoise. Hate that word. These on her right. These doors, too, had hollow signs, and Scarlet read the first one on her right. Admissions. Lady Cordial's office, of course. Scarlet remembered now from her own time of applying. When she had first visited the school, she'd come alone, since her parents had been on tour and unable to take the time off. Lady Cordial, the head of admissions, had been pleasant in their interview, but not as welcoming as one might have hoped, especially one with test scores such as Scarlet's, which were practically off the charts. But that was Lady Cordial, Scarlet now realized, stiff, skittish, and often lost for words. Scarlet had eventually learned, like every Starling Academy student, not to take things too personally with her. On the other hand, Scarlet's next interview with Lady Stella had been one of the best star hours of her whole life. There was something about the headmistress that made every Starling feel as if she'd known her for star years. Scarlet had already thought she wanted to go to Starling Academy, but meeting Lady Stella had sealed the deal. The headmistress didn't care if Scarlet didn't like rainbows as much as rain clouds, or loved the most unloved of Starling colors, black. She seemed to know, too, that Scarlet wasn't half as interested in learning to grant wishes as she was in living on her own. And yet she welcomed Scarlet into Starling Academy with warm and open arms. Lady Stella had always seen Scarlet for who she was, and admired her for being herself, which only made Scarlet feel worse about having to leave the Star Darlings, and more determined to get back in. With that in mind, she moved on, shifting her hat to continue reading each star-shaped sign. Attendance, accounting, alumni relations, student life, faculty lounge. Faculty lounge? Scarlet paused. So this was where the professors hung out when they weren't teaching their finer points of wish world thinking or giving a pop quiz on wish identification. She could only imagine what they did in there. Compare lessons, share grading tips, complaining about students, such as Scarlet, who liked to bark out answers instead of politely raising their hands. She pictured them gathering around a table, sharing sighs and cups of zing. Are you going in? Scarlet froze. The person behind her spoke again. Star apologies. I didn't mean to rush you. A hand reached over Scarlet's shoulder to cover the scanner in the middle of the door. It's just, well, my class ran a few moogles over, and I'm late for my massage. The scanner glowed bright blue. Welcome, Professor Nicola Cecilia. A bop-bop voice greeted the teacher, her astral accounting teacher, Scarlet realized, as the door to the faculty lounge opened wide. Starf, thought why? Oh my god. Starf, thought Scarlet as her eyes took in the scene. She was careful to keep her hat low, but she could still make out much of the room. Everything from frozen Cocoa Moon yogurt bar to the manicure pedicure stations to the hot tub and swimming pool. Most classes were still in session, so the lounge was far from full. Nevertheless, there were plenty of teachers already enjoying themselves. Professor Alara Ursa, the Wishers 101 teacher, was having her hair done by a bot stylist as she read a holo magazine. Professor Eugenia Bright, meanwhile, was playing a rather intense, sparkle-filled game of Star Pong with Professor Dolores Ray. Giggles spilled out of the hollow photo booth, but Scarlet couldn't see who was inside. She sniffed. Was that Zoomberry trifle she smelled? She sniffed again. Yes it was. And Glorange meringue pie as well. Scarlet's mouth was already watering by the time her eyes found the buffet. Come on in. By now, Professor Nicola Cecilia had slipped around Scarlet and stood inside. Reaching up, she pulled a silver star-topped comb out of each side of her tight, plume-colored bun. With a shake, she let her hair tumble loose over her shoulders, and it stopped well below her waist. Don't be shy. Substitutes are welcome. More than welcome, in fact. She flashed a smile far sunnier than Scarlet had ever seen on her normally dour face. You could probably use a break the most. These students are bright, but give them half a chance and they'll wear your glow away. Whose class did you have, by the way? I didn't realize anyone was out. I hope you didn't have to wear that hat and coat all day. You know, there are bot valets to see to things like that. For Moogle, Scarlet was actually tempted to play along and follow her teacher inside. Before she had the thought that the students' lightning lounge had everything a starling could ever desire. But its cozy fireplaces, pillows, and walls of hollow screens were nothing compared with the faculty's giant lounge. Oh my god. The only problem was Scarlet knew that as soon as she took her hat off, she would give herself away. Frankly, she was startled even, that Professor Nicola Cecilia hadn't raised a single violet eyebrow at her beard, which was steadily shifting sideways. Ahem! Scarlet cleared her throat as deeply as she could. Star salutations, she said gruffly. She gave the brim of her hat a dapper tap, the way she had seen her father do. But, I'm looking for another, room. Oh, the teacher's grin faded. I see. And what room is that? Hollow Records. You mean the Hollow Records room right there? Professor Nicola Cecilia pointed to a delicate, sparkly, purple-polished fingernail at the next door down the hall. Scarlet turned and squinted to read the sign. Student Hollow Records. There it was. Star salutations, Scarlet said too quickly. She feared, but then Professor Nicola Cecilia's head suddenly snapped around. Her bot masseuse was summoning her rather impatiently by the end. Starf, gotta go. So there it is. Glad I could... Oh, fuck. Wrong voice. Starf, gotta go. So there it is. Glad I could help. Oh, and so you know, Luna days we always play Astro Poker in the lounge. I almost always win, but still, keep it in mind. Scarlet let out a long sigh as the door slid shut between them. She hadn't even realized she'd been holding her breath. She checked to make sure no other teachers were coming. They weren't. She sighed again. It took just a starman to reach the door of Hollow Records' room. Then the only question left was, how was she going to get inside? Okay, so that was chapter 4. Next is chapter 5. I will see you guys next time.